What's going on, ladies, gents, and kids of all ages? It is Eric coming back at you once again from the Nerd Cave. That's right, I am back after a long hiatus due to a variety of things. We'll touch on that a little bit more as we go, but we've got a lot of updates. Opened a couple pretty cool cards that I'm excited to show you, and we've got a deck list that we're going to talk about as well as some channel updates. But before we jump into all of that, as always, I got to give a big shout out to the Patreons for making the giveaways on the channel possible. Could not do any of this without you guys. As always, we're constantly approaching new giveaways as the subscriber count rises, so if you guys are not subscribed, it's always a good time to do so. It doesn't cost you anything, and if you do want to spend a little bit of money and help support the channel, we do have Patreon and affiliate links in the description. The affiliate links don't cost you anything. They actually do have some discount codes, so if you want to check those out, you can get some great discounts at some cool websites that might be relevant to you as a Disney Lorcana player. But as you may have noticed, it's been probably about a month without any videos on the channel, and if you've been around the channel for a long time prior to me doing Disney Lorcana content, which I know most of you have not, most of you have tuned in since I started doing the Lorcana stuff, but if you've been around a long time viewer, you may know I've had my bouts with some health issues over the years, and I was dealing with some issues related to that, so I've just been really tired. I am also a stay-at-home dad in addition to running a YouTube channel and a full-time business from home, so I've got a lot on my plate at times. So when I'm feeling a little fatigued, a lot of times the first thing to go, unfortunately, is YouTube. I know people think YouTube is some kind of cash cow, and if you have 1,000 subscribers, you're making $1 million. That is not the case. Make very little, if anything, off of YouTube month to month. So again, if you guys want to support the channel, watching the videos is incredible. Letting the ads play is great because that helps with ad revenue. But if you want to support it another way, the Patreon is the most direct way to accomplish that. The other factor with that is I've been hoping for some time to get a real kind of sponsorship from somebody, maybe a store or a larger entity that has Disney Lorcana product and would potentially provide product for promotion and for box openings and that kind of stuff. As you guys may know, getting 4 of every Disney Lorcana card, every single set, can be quite expensive, especially if you're trying to do it quickly to be able to talk about deck lists. So actually this set, I only bought 1 booster box, and we opened a few packs when we drafted a draft that I did win, thankfully. I'm 9 drafts in a row. We only draft once per set at my LGS, and I'm 9 drafts in a row first place, so pretty happy with that. There are some cards that were definitely broken for draft this set. I think the set is probably one of the most fun sets to play sealed or draft, but I'm rambling here. If you are an LGS or another type of entity that sells Disney Lorcana products and you're looking for a YouTube channel to sponsor, you want to get a little bit of promotion going in the Disney Lorcana space, definitely drop me a line. That's something we've been looking for very heavily because it would help us continue to focus on Disney Lorcana content exclusively, as opposed to having to kind of branch out a little bit, which is something personally I want to do. I like the idea of branching out, but I also like the idea of finding sponsors in this space so I can focus more on the Lorcana content for you guys going forward. Maybe do some box breaks, that kind of stuff. I know people like that. I know people have been asking for gameplay, so we want to bring more of that in the future. But thank you guys so much for sticking around through the rambling, through the updates, through what's been going on. We're going to be jumping into the deck list in just a minute, but we did have a set championships. Obviously, since I've been on hiatus, I did manage to get 5th place, so we did pick up the Maleficent Dragon. We'll go ahead and throw her on screen. Very, very cool card. Super happy to be able to win one of these. It only had like 14 or 15 players, so it was a cut to top 4, not to top 8. I did end up in 5th. I lost 1 match in the Swiss, so it's not like I did poorly and that put me in 5th. I lost 1 match. The people I beat didn't have the better tiebreakers, and I ended up in 5th place, which frankly was fine for me. I got a couple less packs than the people who ended up in top 4, and I didn't get to play it out for the mat, which frankly was fine. I did not want to play another 2 rounds to probably lose the mat to one of the super high level players who was there in the room. We get a lot of high level players in Central Florida, if you weren't aware. Did come away with my Maleficent Dragon, which was my goal, and I got a few packs, opened some okay stuff, but the Maleficent Dragon was the main takeaway. Since then, still during the Reign of Jafar block, we did open an Enchanted Eye to Eye, which was cool, so we're happy to have that. I'm sure you guys are familiar with this card. Finally starting to see a little bit of play, so the price has been really, really stable on this card. I'm hoping as it maybe sees more play, we could possibly see the price increase, and maybe we'll end up letting it go, trading it for some stuff. If you guys are looking for an Eye to Eye and have stuff from the new set you want to trade, definitely let me know. And then the new set came out, which was very cool. Like I mentioned, we bought one booster box and we did also draft. I actually got 0 legendaries in my draft pool, which was a bummer, but in my booster box I got a pack that had 2 Hades in it, which was kind of crazy. I did pull 2 epics from the booster box, and we did also pull the Enchanted Horned King. Not the most exciting enchanted in the world. It's a pretty decent card. 4 cost inkable, shift 2, 3/4 stat line. Whenever one of your characters is banished in a challenge, you may return them to your hand, then choose and discard a card. So if you're drawing a lot of cards, I think there are some situations where you could potentially see this card getting taken advantage of, because it doesn't have to exert to be able to trigger any of its abilities. All it has to do is be on the field, and then when those other characters are getting banished, potentially you're taking advantage of this to be able to do some shenanigans. We also have that new Amethyst Mini Mouse that when one of your Amethyst characters is banished, you're going to draw a card, so that could potentially be an interesting combo, especially with his shift 2. Makes his stat line not terrible. He does quest for 2. So, you know, got a couple enchanteds recently, which was cool. We've still been opening packs and playing the game, obviously, but just haven't been making content. I did actually record a couple videos. They never made it through the editing process and made it live in a time frame that it was relevant. So here we are talking about a brand new set. And the first deck we are going to talk about is one that you guys know is my home in Disney Lorcana, and that is Amethyst Steel. Jumping in with 4 Captain Hook Forceful Duelist. Yes, we are still on the set 1 Forceful Duelist. I refuse to upgrade to set 9. I think this art is absolutely beautiful. 1 cost inkable, 1/2 stat line, questing for 1, challenger 2, so he is going to challenge for 3 and just be a great way to threaten the board. We're seeing larger stat lines in this new meta, so it just has made Captain Hook all that much more relevant. Also in the 1 cost slot, a card that some people have moved away from, I still think is really good. We saw Frank Karsten playing it. I think this is where you want to be going first. Forceful Duelist is maybe where you want to be going second, where you're going to be playing your guy second, and then your opponent's going to be challenging or questing, and then you're going to be coming right into a turn where you can challenge with Hook. Whereas if you're going first, getting those Diablos down early is going to be great as an opportunity to draw you an extra card. Next up, we have 3 Palace Guard Spectral Sentry, a 1 cost inkable, 1/4 stat line, questing for 1 with Vanish. Vanish can potentially be a little bit riskier this set, but there's a lot of things out there that aren't necessarily targeting, so maybe Vanish will be fine. If somebody's putting a counter on him with Malicious, Mean, and Scary, he's still got 3 more and it's not targeting him. So I think Palace Guard is pretty good in certain matchups, and he's inkable, so when he's not good, you know, you ink him. This is a card I've seen a lot of people move away from. I still think it's a 2 of. I still think this card in the right situation can be incredibly good, and that is going to be Fire the Cannons as a 1 cost uninkable action. That's just going to deal 2 damage to target character. It's not going to be able to hit anything else, but it's going to deal 2 damage to a target character. So even on those bigger stat lines where those characters have leftover willpower, it's going to help you clean something up. And in the early game, if your opponent is trying to take advantage of those weaker characters, it is going to let you punish them for doing so. And jumping over to the 2 cost slot, we do have 3 Doc Bold Knight, a 2 cost uninkable 1/3 stat line. When you play this character, you may discard your hand to draw 2 cards. This is going to be a great way to get some card draw going, especially when you're kind of petering out, running out of cards. And keep in mind, if you ever end up with 2 Docs in your hand, that is a May trigger, so you can play one, decline the trigger, and then play that second one. So don't be throwing your Docs away if you don't have to, if you don't need to keep the ink open for something else. Still in the 2 cost slot, and a great follow-up to Hook Forceful Duelist when you are on the draw, is going to be Madam Mim Tiny Adversary as a 2 cost inkable 0/3 stat line, questing for 1. Your other characters are going to get challenger 1. She only challenges for 1 herself as a 0/3 challenger 1, and so you're pretty much just going to want to keep her ready and take advantage of her with your other characters, but it's going to allow those Captain Hooks to trade into those Daisy Ducks, which are less relevant in the meta, with a lot of people moving away from aggro, but we're definitely still seeing some Amber Steel, and Amber Steel specifically is a pretty big contender in the aggro space. So as far as those aggro decks that are happening, I'd say like 90% of them are Amber Steel, and a lot of them playing Daisy Duck. You'll sense a theme. We're testing a lot of different cards in the 2-drop slot. I think they all have their use cases, but the next one is going to be Black Heron Real Bad Egg, a 2 cost inkable 3/3 stat line, questing for 1. That's it, vanilla character, but she has a stat line like Smee, and she has no drawback, but she only quests for 1. She doesn't quest for 2 like Smee did. That's probably why it has a drawback. But Black Heron, really good. That's a card I predict the foil price is just going to continue to go up right now as people play her more and more. I think the card's actually really good. I think this card is also really good. Not seeing really any play currently. I think it's, again, a card that you want to be on I think it's a card you want to be on if you are playing on the draw. You don't want to necessarily be throwing this down on the play because you want to be focusing more on that aggressive questing or stuff that's going to threaten the board, like the Black Heron. But Iago can be really good in any situation. It can threaten pretty much any character going up into turn 3 or 4 even, as a 2-cost inkable 0/2 stat line questing for 1 with Challenger 5. Being able to draft 3 of these in the sealed pool was a big part of what helped me win those games, because Iago is just such a vicious board threat and there was not a lot of removal in draft. Jumping over to the 3-cost slot, we do have 4 Giant Cobra, Ghostly Serpent, 3-cost inkable 4/4 stat line questing for 1, also with Vanish, much like those Palace guards. So if it's getting targeted specifically by an action, it is going to get Vanish, but again, that's few and far between. And if they're doing it with something like Strength of a Raging Fire, say La Vie, this card costs 3 anyway, and when you play this character you may choose and discard a card to gain 2 lore, so it can be a fantastic way to boost yourself up into the point where you are closing out games unexpectedly for your opponent. The 3-cost slot just got absolutely cracked this set with the inclusion of Lexington, small in stature, a 3-cost inkable 4/4 stat line questing for 1, not so small after all. It does have alert, so it's going to be able to challenge those characters with evasive, like those Dumbos that have become so problematic in the meta, and also obviously those 2/4 genies, which have always been a powerhouse, and many other characters. But Lexington is going to be fantastic. He does have the drawback ability that all gargoyles have, Stone by Day. If you have 3 or more cards in your hand that this character can't ready. I think it's fantastic what they did with the gargoyles, where they made them really, really strong, but then they gave them all that same drawback ability that actually plays into what their lore is as characters. I was very excited about gargoyles coming to the game, and I think they did a really good job with them personally, and they made them super playable, which I like. Next up, still in the 3-cost slot, we have 3 Cheshire Cat Inexplicable, a 3-cost inkable 3/4 stat line with boost 2, a new mechanic that we're seeing on the Whisper characters, which Cheshire Cat is, and whenever you put a card under this character, you may move up to 2 damage counters from chosen character to chosen opposing character. So it's kind of like that Bell, but you're only going to be able to move 2 damage instead of 3. It is still going to cost you that 5 like Bell if you want to get it down and activate it right away. However, unlike Bell, you can get this card down on 3 and start activating it on 4, maybe against a 2-drop also. So Cheshire Cat has a lot of versatility, as well as being able to be taken advantage of multiple turns in a row. It does only quest for 1, not for 2 like that Bell, but I think that is a fair price to pay. One of the few actions in the deck, we do have 4 Strength of a Raging Fire as a 3-cost inkable action song, so you're going to be able to sing it with all of those excellent 3-cost characters that this deck is able to take advantage of, and it is going to deal damage to chosen character equal to the number of characters you have in play. So if you're able to get down a handful of characters, especially going into that turn 4 when you're going to have that 3-drop ready to use anyway, you have real potential to play 1, 2, 3 characters just in that turn, and if you already have the 3-drop to sing, you're going to be in a great position to be taking advantage of that Strength of a Raging Fire for some solid damage. Next up, a card I still have total faith in. I've seen some people move away from this more recently, and that is going to be the Library, a gift for Bell, a 3-cost inkable, 1 to move in, 8 willpower location. It is going to gain you 1 passive lore at the beginning of each turn, and whenever a character is banished while they're here, it is going to draw you a card. I think this is a fantastic budget alternative to something like Dumbo. I think also people are teching heavily against Dumbo because he was so oppressive in the prior meta. So if you want to be doing something different that people maybe aren't teching against, even though there are those high strength characters, the Library can be a real surprise to your opponents, and just not something as many people are seeing in deck lists currently, and a card that has been proven time and time again to be solid. And jumping over to the 4-cost slot, we do have 3 Genie Wish Fulfilled, a 4-cost uninkable 2/4 stat line questing for 2. He does have evasive, he does get eaten up by those Lexingtons as I mentioned previously, but you know, that's just a risk you're going to have to take because he is too good otherwise. Worst case scenario, he's going to get you a quest for 2, and his ability is going to trigger when you play him. He is going to draw you a card, so he's replacing himself either way and getting you a little bit of lore, getting you that much closer to the finish line. People are also probably going to be worried about Dumbos and additional card draw. Since we're not playing Dumbos in this deck list, I think they're really going to target Genie and focus on that right away, and it's not going to be something that hurts you really all that much based on how we're playing this particular deck. Still in the 4-cost slot, another card you're not really seeing people play in Amethyst Steel, but I think is potentially really funny, especially if you have some squishy bodies on the board in the early game, and that is going to be the Headless Horseman Relentless Spirit, a 4-cost inkable 4/4 stat line with bodyguard. So he's going to be able to come down and protect. He's going to be able to come down and potentially protect those squishies when it is relevant. However, you can just play him ready to go, and he is going to be a great potential shift line, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go forward. But the Headless Horseman, I think, is a pretty cool card, cool new addition in this set. This card I definitely want to get foil. I think this card is absolutely phenomenal. Definitely a 1 or 2 of at least in every single steel list, in my opinion. It's just too good not to play, and that is Mayor Wind Dancer, actor turned politician. Actor turned politician, a 4-cost uninkable 5/7 stat line, questing for 1. 5/7 stat line, questing for 1. Yes, are those Hades going to eat him up? Sure. Are those Into the Unknown going to eat him up? Probably. But is he going to do some damage before those things happen? Most likely. Hopefully. If it is an all Sapphire meta, maybe he's less good in that particular meta, and we are seeing a lot of Sapphire decks right now. However, if the meta skews more away from Sapphire and we're not seeing 50+% Sapphire decks at big tournaments, Mayor Wind Dancer is incredible against everything else. Last 4-cost character, we do have 2 Demona, Betrayer of the Clan, a 4-cost inkable 4/6 stat line. Never thought I'd be saying that. That's a crazy stat line for a 4-cost inkable. Questing for 1. It does have Challenger +2, so when it's challenging, and it's going to be a 6/6 stat line, which is crazy for 4. And if you have 3 or more cards in your hand, this character can't ready. So again, it's got that Stone by Day ability like we talked about on Lexington, but a 6/6 that's going to be able to mess up the board and clear out a lot of those big threats is going to be great. Even when she's getting challenged into and that Challenger's not activating, 4/6 is still really good. Another new card, and a card we chose to play 2 of in an effort to play 2 Fire the Cannons, but you could potentially drop the Fire the Cannons or focus more on He Hurled His Thunderbolt, but I think they both have their use cases. It is a 4-cost uninkable action song. Deal 4 damage to target character. Your deity characters gain Challenger +2, not relevant to us in this particular deck, but dealing 4 damage as a song is going to be great. We have some great 4-cost characters to sing it with that have a large amount of willpower and are likely going to be able to stay on the board even after singing and potentially risking being challenged into. So, great spot removal. Definitely taking up that Along Came Zeus slot now that that card rotated out. Moving to the 5-cost slot, we do have for Elsa the Fifth Spirit, a 5-cost inkable 2/5 stat line, rush and evasive, which is a crazy combination of just everything. And if that weren't bad enough, when you play this character, exert chosen opposing character, which is just an absolutely cracked out ability, especially when she has rush and evasive. She is just a powerhouse, and when you have those Mana Mims on the board, she challenges for 3, so even better. I don't think I have to tell you guys about the merits of Elsa. So in that 5-cost slot, we do have 2 Hades looking for a deal, a 5-cost inkable 3/4 stat line, questing for 1, and when you play this character, you may choose an opposing character. So you're going to choose one of your opponent's characters. If you do, which you're going to, you're going to draw 2 cards unless that character's player puts the card on the bottom of their deck. So their choice is going to be either put this character on the bottom of my deck or to let me draw 2 cards when I play Hades. So it's going to be fantastic. It's like a better You're Welcome in a lot of ways. There's a reason the card is $30+ right now, but fantastic new addition from the new set. Great control card. Kind of made Ursula pointless, which is a little bit of a bummer there, but I think we'll all get over that. Next up, we have the Headless Horseman Cursed Rider, 8-cost inkable 5/7 stat line. Likely you're never going to be paying 8 to put him down, but there may be instances where you are able to shift him for 5. He's right on curve with those bodyguard Headless Horsemen, and when you play this character, each player draws 3 cards, then discards 3 cards at random, which is pretty neat. Choose an opposing character and deal 2 damage to them for each action card discarded this way, which is an interesting ability. When I had read this ability initially, I really thought if an opposing character had resist 2, you're dealing 2 to them a bunch of times and they're going to take no damage. However, that is not apparently how this card functions. The way that it functions is you're going to both draw and discard 3 cards. You're going to then see how many actions were discarded, be it 1, 2, 3, whatever it may be. And at that point, you're going to select an opposing character to take the damage from those discarded actions, and it's going to be 2 stacked. So if you have 3 actions discarded, you're dealing 6, not 2 3 times. So if there's resist 2, they're still taking 4, so keep that in mind. Makes Headless Horseman a really good removal card. And he comes down Quest for 2 with a 5/7 stat line, much like those Mirror Wind Dancers. He's just really solid. He's cool in the right situations. It's not necessarily a card a lot of people are expecting you to play in this. Obviously, you don't have a million actions in the deck to be able to take advantage of dealing damage that way, but when it's relevant, you need to get that character down. You have an action and you want to use it to deal damage, but you don't want to pay the cost of it. You can potentially be doing both things in a way with Headless Horseman, so keep that in mind. And there's a lot of opponents playing a lot of action-heavy decks, so even if you're not discarding a lot of actions, you may see your opponent holding actions in their hand and discarding a lot of actions from their side. So that is the breakdown on the new list for Amethyst Steel. Going into Whispers in the Well, I may change it more. I may add in more legendaries. I may make it more costly, but right now I wanted to keep it fairly budget friendly and still tournament competitive for those people who don't have a ton of the new cards. I know Hades is fairly expensive. You could potentially replace those with those Ursulas from last set, or another Cheshire Cat, maybe one of those Bells. So there's options to get those Hades out of the deck and even bring this deck cost down another $60 and still really legitimately be competitive in my mind. But what are your thoughts on Amethyst Steel? What are your thoughts on this version of it in the comments below? Are you guys happy that I'm back? Are you excited to see more Lorcana deck lists? I'm excited to be back with you all. So thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And when you see those toys, video games, and big old gargoyles off in the distance turn into stone, remember, it is not a mirage. You guys have a great day.